Welcome back to Top of Mind. My name is Hayley and today we are doing a Let's Chat episode. The Let's Chat episodes are all about answering your questions. We get hundreds of questions every month and we thought what better way to answer them than on the podcast. We obviously go back to each individual as well, but if there's one person asking the question, the likelihood that there'll be others wanting to know the answer to that question is pretty high. So we thought we would make a dedicated episode to answering your questions. The episodes are called Let's Chat. There are heaps of Let's Chat episodes before this one, so if you haven't already checked them out, make sure you check them out. Today we are answering 6 questions, a variety of questions, but I think the most important thing before we get started is if you have a question, make sure you send us a DM, drop us a voice note, send us an email, whatever way it is, leave a comment in the podcast. Whatever way you want to get that question to us, ask it, because there is no such thing as a silly question. I like answering all types of questions. Doesn't matter how deep or how broad those questions are. I think the ability to be able to answer these questions and potentially help someone on their journey of building their business or their brand or their personal brand is really, really important to me. So let's get stuck into these questions. The first question that we have is, how can I stop worrying about what others think when I show up online? And I love answering these questions because I do not give a fuck about what anyone thinks about me or the content that I'm sharing, because when I first started sharing content online, whether it was on LinkedIn or Instagram, I would always get comments like, oh, you're posting a lot, or oh, look at you, an influencer. And I think influencer is really a lot of the time used as like a derogatory or kind of a condescending label for putting yourself out there, or, you know, trying to take away from, you know, what you're doing. So the first piece of advice that I would give to somebody that's worrying about what others think is, if they're not paying you, their opinions do not count. Doesn't matter. Forget about it. We did a great episode with Alexis Fernandez, and go back to, I can't remember what episode number it was, but we did a great episode with her where we talk about like other people criticizing and how to get over that kind of imposter syndrome and worrying about what other people are thinking. I think she made a really good point around the fact that when you start doing something differently, people will comment. If you change your hair, people will comment. If you wear something different to what you wear normally, people will comment because it's different. But the more times you show up doing that thing or wearing that thing or embracing the thing that they've commented on initially, the less they'll comment on it. And I think that that's a really good way of looking at it, because if you just continue doing it, yeah, the first few times people will make a comment being like, oh, I've seen you post a lot, or you're getting back onto Instagram or LinkedIn, aren't you? Like, you're all over it. And firstly, you will only ever get criticism from people because they can't do it themselves, or they would struggle to do it themselves, or they struggle with the idea of doing it and therefore putting somebody else down makes them feel better. But also, no one else is going to write your brand or your business story for you if you're not out there doing it for yourself. And creating content organically is probably one of the best and cheapest ways to get your business name, brand name out there, and the story behind what you're doing out there. So I would say, if they're not paying you, their opinion doesn't matter. Consistency will always win. And one thing that we spoke about with Alexis in her episode was around the idea of turning up late. Like, if you consistently turn up late and then all of a sudden you turn up early, someone would be like, oh, you're early. And then you turn up early to the next thing and people might say, oh, twice in a row, like, you're early. And then after a while you continue to turn up early, people will stop commenting because it's not new anymore. People are always going to say something when something is new. And the only way to combat that is to keep turning up and to keep doing the thing that people are commenting on, because they'll comment on it less the more times you do it. I think One of the best stats that I have around this is that 74% of Australians trust brands that show up consistently online. We know that consistency builds trust, trust builds credibility, and credibility builds conversions. So why would you not show up online? That's the answer. Honestly, stop worrying about what others think and just keep doing. One of my favorite quotes is action kills doubt every single day of the week. Action kills doubt. Do the thing and it will stop you from doubting the thing. That's my answer. I'm quickly interrupting this podcast episode because I just want to remind you that in order for us to stay top of mind, see what I did there? We need you to hit like and subscribe or share this with a friend. Give them a little bit of marketing inspiration or business inspiration today. Now back to the episode. Okay, question 2. Why do agencies charge so much more than people on Fiverr? Great question and a very, very simple answer. Agencies have a lot of people, a lot of hard costs, a lot of fixed costs, a lot of overheads that they need to cover. Typically, on Fiverr, you're typically dealing with one individual that's a freelancer. I think there are pros and cons for both, but what I would say up front is that if you are looking, and I had this conversation recently, if you are looking for someone to do 5 different roles, it'll be really, really rare for you to find that someone to do all 5 roles. So working with an agency where they can pull in expertise from different parts of the business is the best way to do it. If you need a quick graphic thing done and they need to do it in, an hour or 2 and you go onto Fiverr, amazing. I think the pros and cons that come with them, there are a lot of them. I think Fiverr, you run the risk that you're dealing with one person, you've never worked with them before, perhaps they don't have much proof of what they've done previously. They may be cheaper, but they may not actually give you the outcome that you want, and you may end up having to work with an agency when it comes to actually what you're after. If you're working with an agency, they may overpromise and underdeliver. They may, charge you a lot more to cover the head hours for the rest of the agency or to make up, the cost that they've got to make up, for whatever hard cost they're trying to cover, like office space, all of those things. So yes, you pay more with an agency, but you typically have access to experts and a raft of people that can help you. Whereas on Fiverr, you're typically dealing with one person and you may have to go through 1 to 3 people to figure out what type of person you want to work with. I would also say that typically with working with an agency, the briefing process is probably a little bit more substantial in the sense that working with an agency, they'll probably interrogate the brief a little bit further, ask you a bunch of questions, make sure that they're the right people for the job. Whereas on Fiverr, they may just say, yeah, we can do that, no problem, and then take it and perhaps not deliver what you want, or deliver what you want and you continue working with that individual. I think agency versus Fiverr from a marketing standpoint, you have to remember that you're paying one person versus paying for potentially a group of experts. The thing that I love about our business, shameless plug, is the fact that we are an agency, but we don't charge you for the people that you're not using. So, if you need a strategy, you pay for the strategist when you need them, but that's not an overall cost that you're wearing every month to have access to a strategist. So we've kind of been able to change our model to bring in experts where we need them, which means that we don't have to charge our clients consistently to cover their costs, if that makes sense. I think both Fiverr and agencies serve a purpose in the marketing or branding ecosystem. I just think it depends on how you want to work, how much cash flow you have, and how much you're willing to risk getting it right. That's what I would say. But yeah, that's why agencies will charge so much more typically, because you're not just dealing with one person and covering their hours. You're dealing with a group of people that have to cover hard costs, head hours, management, all of that stuff, as well as the people that you're working with. Both work, different horses for different courses. Question 3, what are some good free software tools I can be using as a startup to help with marketing? Marketing is so broad and there are so many tools that exist today to help you with your marketing. I could honestly do an entire episode just on tools that startups could be using. I think, honestly, off the top of my head, you need, as for content and like social media marketing, you need a scheduling tool. So whether you're scheduling on Later or HubSpot, or, you know, there's a bunch of different scheduling tools that allow you to schedule your content for your social media. I think that's really important. I think having an editing tool like InShot, Canva, CapCut, etc. for videos and photos, if you're doing all of that yourself, really important. As I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, an email marketing tool is super important, because I think email marketing should be the basis of any business. Email marketing, HubSpot, MailChimp, Flowdesk are a bunch of tools that you can use. And last but not least, the thing that I would mention is having a great filing system. My computer recently died and the screen just wouldn't turn on, and honestly, I'm so grateful that we use Google Drive and Chrome. I think we literally had everything on emails in the Google Drive and saved in the Chrome. So like, I did not lose anything, and I was able to pick up another laptop and just log straight back in and get straight back to work. So I think having a great filing system and kind of cloud device that you can operate off is a good kind of basis to start. There's a whole heap of AI tools, and I'd love to do an episode just on AI tools for your business, because I think that that's one thing that startups are grossly underestimating and underutilizing, is utilizing AI tools to make everything a lot more efficient and a lot more streamlined. So they were the things that I would start with, but I mean, it really depends on what you're trying to do. Honestly though, if you Google tool for X, like, it will give you a bunch of tools that you just have to try and test, and there's more and more coming out every week, every month. So just make sure that you kind of stay on top of, you know, the most recent tools that are out that can help you. Like, I recently found a tool that can imitate and learn my voice to do voiceovers. Amazing, because I hate doing voiceovers. So like, things like that, really important to stay on top of and, you know, utilize where you can in the business. Question number 4. Question number 4. What if I lose followers when I'm sharing strong opinions? Is it worth it to be polarizing? Now, I'm slightly biased on this because I'm just like very much of the opinion that I am me, and this is my opinion, and I'm happy to share it. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, see ya. I'm also really open to hearing other people's opinions, and I won't ever sit there and be like, you're wrong. But my opinion is my opinion, right? So I come back to the quote constantly that's like, if you stand for nothing, you attract nobody. And it's like, all of the people in, you know, my lifetime that have been someone that has strong influence or has strong opinions have always had those, someone who has been like, you know, a big influence or made their mark in the world have always had those strong opinions and have always stood for something. I think if you can think of anyone that you like really look up to or idolize, they have at times or consistently shared their opinions online or, you know, through the medium or the channel that they're using. So I think for me, the way in which I view it is like, if I share my opinion online and you unfollow me as a result of that, you're not the person that I want to be talking to anyway. And it's the same as people unsubscribing from your emails. I don't think it's a bad thing. I actually think it's like a form of natural selection that allows people to be like, actually, this content's not for me. And therefore, us selling to that one person probably isn't the right fit anyway. So I think if they unfollow you, they were never going to buy from you anyway. I think if they unsubscribe from your emails, they were never going to buy from you anyway. So I think as long as your opinions don't hurt anyone and they're not, you know, defamatory or, you know, somewhat polarizing to a point where, you know, you're isolating a group of people or anything like that. Like I said, if your opinions are hurtful of an individual or a group of people or, you know, things, disrespectful, then I think that's a different conversation. But I think when it comes to sharing strong opinions about things, I very openly share my strong opinions about agencies and the agency model. And I'm not scared to share them because I think that that's my opinion and that's what I truly believe. It's what I built my business on. Quick pause for a second. I just want to quickly interrupt to ask you one thing. If you are loving the content that you are listening to, make sure you hit subscribe or leave a review. I want to keep these podcast episodes ad-free for as long as possible, and the only way that I can do that is by you guys subscribing or leaving a great review or sharing it with a friend. So that's all I ask of you today. Now back to the episode. And if I lose followers as a result of it, that's fine because they're not the people that I want to be engaging with anyway. So when you lose followers as a result of sharing your opinion, yeah, I think it's fine and I think it's great. And you sharing your opinion is only going to attract your ideal audience or your ideal customer when it comes to sharing those strong opinions. I know I've had in the past women in particular that I've worked with where they'll share a somewhat polarizing opinion on, you know, motherhood or parenting whilst working and being successful. And for me, I'm like, if anything, you'll resonate with your people when you share your opinion. And I think as long as you're comfortable with whatever you're sharing being on like the 6 o'clock news or the side of the bus with your face next to it, I think it's okay to share as long as you can back it and you can be respectful of other people having their own opinions and knowing that your opinion won't be everyone else's opinion. Question number 5, the difference between boosting posts and running ads. Oh my gosh, I think I actually answered a similar question in one of our earlier Let's Chat episodes. I get this question almost every month, like, why would I pay you to run ads for us if I can just boost a post on Instagram? And what I say to that is, for all my hairdressers out there, if you are boosting a post, it's like your client going, well, I'm just going to go home and box dye my hair because it gives me the same outcome. And the difference between boosting a post and getting someone to run your ads for you is boosting a post is a very easy solution that is a one box fits most approach. It doesn't really allow you to customize it. It doesn't really allow you to kind of drill down and segment various audiences and things like that. Does it do the job? Yes. Is it as efficient or specific as paying someone to run your ads for you? Absolutely not. So the way in which I like to liken boosting your post versus getting someone to run your ads for you is that boosting your post is like box dyeing your hair. Running ads for you is like going to the hairdresser. You're going to be dealing with experts who know what they're doing, who know what color you need to go to get the desired outcome that you want. With box dye, you're kind of just going, that color looks great and I'm gonna try it. And if it's kind of close to what I wanted, I'll be happy. Both work, but one is more specific than the other. One is being run by experts. One is kind of a more standardized approach to getting your content in front of other people. I think the key thing there is that boosting a post is kind of what I like to refer to as like a lazy ad. It doesn't mean that you're lazy. It's just a lazy way of doing it, in the sense that you go, I want to sign $200 to this one post and I want to get it out to these people, this age range, this demographic, this geo target. Go and hope for the best. Paying someone to run your ads allows you to see which ads are performing, upweight or downweight the spend based on what creative is performing for you, really segment different ads out, allow retargeting, all of those things that come as a result of having someone run your ads for you. So that's my analogy that I like to give, is boosting ads is like box dye for your hair. Running ads and getting someone to run your ads for you is like going to the hairdresser. That's it. And question number 6, last question, is how many times do I need to be posting on social media? Now, I firmly believe that if we knew the right amount of posts that people need to be posting to get it right, or to hack the algorithm, it wouldn't be the right amount of posts because everybody would do it. What I would say is that consistency wins every day of the week. Consistency over quantity will win. So if you can only post 2 to 3 times a week, but you can do it for the entire year, post 2 to 3 times a week. That is better than posting every single day for 2 weeks and then not posting anything for the next 2 months. So I think there is no right answer for how many times a week you should be posting. I think whatever is the most consistent that you can stick to for a long period of time is the sweet spot. Obviously with TikTok, the more you can be posting, because the algorithm and the number of posts and pieces of content that go up there is so much bigger than any other platform. The quantity of posts that you need to have to be successful on TikTok versus Instagram is so many more. But whatever you are going to be most consistent with, stick to that. That's everything. That is our Let's Chat episode for this week. We'll be back with another Let's Chat episode likely in a few weeks' time, because we have them almost once a month. We have a fortnightly episode that comes out. Typically we have two solo episodes followed by a 2-part interview, part 1 and part 2, because they typically go for a couple of hours. So we like to break them up because we know that our attention spans are not that long. If you have a question for us or for me to answer, make sure you leave a comment if you are listening on YouTube. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave a review, send us a DM or send me an email. And if you're listening on Spotify, don't forget to rate and subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you soon.